The first DAW to be created is attributed to Soundstream, with their digital editing system created in 1977. The software could perform edits to the audio recorded on the system's hard disks and produce simple effects such as crossfades. The introduction of the MIDI standard in 1983 was a game changer. MIDI allowed electronic instruments and computers to communicate, enabling the ability to control and sequence these instruments. Personal Composer, created by Jim Miller, was the star of the NAMM show in 1983. Personal Composer runs under MS-DOS 2 and includes a MIDI sequencer, synthesizer, and a score editor. In 1984, Mark of the Unicorn released Professional Composer, one of the first application programs for the Apple Macintosh. The program used the Macintosh's high-resolution graphics and printing to allow the user to print professional quality music scores. Macromind MusicWorks, released in October 1984, was a music composition program and the first product by Macromind, predecessor of Macromedia. Voyetra Sequencer Plus was one of the first widely used music production programs. Released for IBM PCs in 1984, it was a MIDI sequencer that allowed musicians to record, edit, and playback MIDI data. In 1984, two men in Germany, Karl Steinberg and Manfred Rapp, launched a software development company called Steinberg. Karl was an audio engineer and Manfred was a professional keyboardist. In 1985, they released Pro 16, a MIDI sequencer for the Commodore 64 that allowed 16 tracks of MIDI recording and editing. Sound Designer, developed by DigiDesign in 1985, was one of the first digital audio editing programs. It allowed users to manipulate audio waveforms on the Apple Macintosh, providing a visual and interactive way to edit sound. Max was released in 1986 by American music professor Miller Pocket. Max is a visual programming language for music and multimedia. It was based on the ideas of Max Matthews and Barry Virco, the developer of Music 11 and C-Sound. The Max program is modular, with most routines existing as shared libraries. Also in 1986, the software called MacMix ran on the newly introduced Apple Mac Plus computer, a machine that had no hard drive. But the software required some hardware called Diaxis. The Diaxis system was a separate rack-mountable unit that had two hard drives, totaling a staggering 100 megs. Users could edit the audio and instantly listen to the playback. In 1988, Pro24 adds import and export MIDI file capabilities, so now you can transfer your music to and from other ST-MIDI software which incorporates standard MIDI. In 1989, Steinberg launched an improved version for the Atari platform, which they called Cubase. The story of Cubase runs parallel with one of its main rivals, Logic. Like Cubase, Logic evolved from a simple C64 MIDI sequencer, C-Lab SoftTrack 16. It went through a few iterations before it became what we now know as Logic. Anyone who started making music after 2002 will know that Logic is only available for Mac OS, but this wasn't always the case. Early versions of Notator Logic were on the Atari's platform but shifted over to Mac and Windows as the Atari gradually became obsolete. In 1989, DigiDesign released a Mac product called Sound Tools. This was a computer-based stereo digital audio recorder that featured non-destructive editing. This concept, where you can cut, copy, paste, and in general process the recording without affecting the original audio, represented a huge leap forward. Editing involved physically cutting and splicing analog tape up until that time. A year later, another milestone was achieved when the Opcode company released a software product also for the Mac, called Studio Vision, essentially an update to its Vision MIDI sequencing software, but one that added digital audio recording with the use of DigiDesign hardware. It was the first recording application to offer both audio and MIDI recording and editing. In 1991, DigiDesign introduced a 4-track successor to the stereo-only sound tools. It was called Pro Tools. By the early 1990s, the foundation for modern music production software had been laid. The combination of digital synthesis, MIDI sequencing, and digital audio editing opened up new creative possibilities for musicians and producers. These early innovations paved the way for the comprehensive DAWs we use today. The pioneers of the early 1980s set the stage for the digital revolution that continues to evolve, pushing the boundaries of what can be achieved in electronic music scene.